Welcome to the Graybeard Wisdom Podcast, where seasoned leaders shape the insights that shape tomorrow's workforce. Today's guest is Dean Masuccio, Director of Dining and Catering at Central Washington University, whose approach to campus hospitality is quietly revolutionizing how students prepare for life after graduation. In this episode, Dean explores how the operational processes students experience at CWU, from mobile ordering and shift accountability to service standards and cross-functional teamwork, are not just campus conveniences, but previews of the expectations they'll face on corporate campuses across the country. As companies evolve into experience-driven environments, the systems Dean and his team have built mirror the workflows, technology, and cultural norms students will encounter in the workplace of tomorrow. This isn't just about food, it's about fluency. Dean shows how dining operations can serve as a strategic training ground, helping students internalize the rhythms and responsibilities of modern professional life before they ever step onto the corporate campus role. Let's dig in. Hey, Dean, how's it going, man?
Great. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. It's really great to have you on this Graybeard Wisdom podcast, and we'll get into some really kind of cool stuff here that will support our upcoming Explosions meeting. And hopefully you can give our audience some great tips on how to deal with these students that'll be coming into their corporate cafes in not too long. So I guess to start out, maybe just give me an idea of what your operation is all about. And, if I was to walk in, what would it feel like? What would it, if it was lunchtime, and what does it sound like? What does it smell like? What's going on in those operations that you've got?
Sure. So thanks for having me, Mark. I hope to not disappoint the audience and provide a little bit of value with my insight. So yeah, like you mentioned, I'm at Central Washington University. I serve as the director for dining here, and Central Washington University is a regional comprehensive institution about 2 hours east of the Metro Seattle area. We have about 8,200 students that are part of our program. And I guess going to the question about what paint that picture. I think when I think of our program and kind of the core of our campus, I think of we call it the CIRC. It's the Student Union Recreation Center. It's kind of the hub of the campus. It's where we have the most activity, the most energy, etc. It's from the Wildcat Bookstore to the Recreation Center and the towering rock wall as you enter to a majority of our dining operations. We run a food court with about 7 quick service retail concepts within that footprint. And then we also have our all you care to enjoy dining hall within that environment. So a lot of different things. We have a couple cafes, a market. So there's a lot of dining activity within the Student Union and Rec Center, the CIRC. So there's a lot of noises of gathering of students, some trying to study in the active building, but a lot of community and a lot of fun smells and noises that come from our operations as well, from our espresso machines and steaming of mouth to the pizza that you smell being prepared at our pizza concept. So it's a lot of variety. So I think the thing that is probably it was a surprise to me, honestly, when I first stepped on campus during my interview process was just the uniqueness I think that we have on this campus with the dining hall and the quick service retail concepts and the cafes and the market being in the central student union facility. Most universities I've visited have a lot of residential dining offerings within the residential housing side of the campus. We also have some satellite locations, but our main facility, our main dining hall is within the most active building of the campus. So some takeaways that I had.
Well, so then all of the residential students come to kind of one location for the dining experience, and then they have, the ability to go to, the dining hall, if you will, but they also have the ability to go to these 7 retail operations too, right?
Correct, and that's all within the same building, so they can dine at any of those facilities, and that's typically where we see the most volume. We see about 70+% of our, close to 80% of our participation within these facilities, but we also have facilities on North Campus and the northeast corner of campus to provide offerings to students. So those that don't want to come to the central location have that option. And so there's and cafes. Cafes are spread around campus as well, from the library to standalone to some of the academic buildings. So it's spread around campus, but the true core is in the center of campus. So a lot of gathering and students coming back to the center for
Awesome.
dining, for the rec center, for the bookstore, for student organizations, for many reasons, but most will visit this building at some point throughout the day.
Yeah, and I suppose that works out really well for building community, right? I mean, people, come in there, and I think, our audience obviously is the corporate world, but when when we were designer, when I was designing cafes and that sort of thing, it was the whole idea was to bring people together. So it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing, right?
That's one of the priorities that we have, is especially after the pandemic and trying to rebuild community that was lost during that period of isolation. We have intentionally tried to create more community gathering opportunities. Our dining hall has recently gone through a kind of reset, and we originally it was not a dining hall. It was designed to be a dining hall, but it was more of an a la carte, pick and choose and pay for what you wish. We converted that to an all you care to enjoy dining hall environment. To this is our second year that we have made that transition, and the one of the key reasons behind that was to build community and have a place to gather and have a place to share a meal and try to bring back some of that community building during the time that we have our students on campus. So, and it's definitely moving in that direction, I believe.
Well, so then do you have a traditional breakfast, lunch, dinner kind of a program, or is it open 24 hours? Or, I mean, what are do the students then, well, I'll let you answer first, but I'm guessing it's not a 24-hour operation. And so then when they want to have something extra, that's when they go to the retail places?
Correct. Yeah, our dining hall serves the breakfast, lunch, and then has a little pause, and then has dinner service. And then yes, all the other retail locations supplement that. So there some periods of the day or week, there's everything available, and some of the slower periods of the week, there might be less availability depending on demand. But the dining hall is providing the breakfast, lunch, dinner service, brunch on the weekends. So, and that's in addition to the rest of the retail operations that are spread across campus and within the student union with the food court. So there's a variety out there.
Yeah, definitely. And then the retail operations, is that like franchises or are those things that you and your team have created, separately?
Mhm. Yeah, so the quick service retail concepts are all self-branded. We do have one national brand on campus. So of the nine, I believe, yeah, I think it's we have nine quick service retail concepts. One of the nine is a branded concept and a standalone building on North Campus, and then the rest are all self-branded concepts.
Well, so what are the students telling you they want these days in those retail operations? Obviously, I heard you say pizza, but what else is going on there?
Yeah, they love variety, right? I think that's one of the feedback, the core feedback that we keep getting is variety. Um, and that is from more plant forward based items to vegetarian, vegan, allergen friendly, to also some of those indulgence items. Those are, we can't forget the fan favorites. Chicken strips and fries continues to rise to the top with our students, regardless of what we might be providing them. So it's variety, and it's allowing them to choose their own adventure.
Yeah, interesting. You bring up the wellness and the plant forward and vegan, vegetarian, all those kinds of things. And, I think the corporate world has struggled a little bit with I mean, we put it out there, but, it's never, it's not like you say, it's not attended to like it is for some of the other quick service stuff. And so I guess from a trend standpoint, do you think that that's changing a little bit? Is that something that a corporate food service should continue to do? because the students now are seeing it as more important than maybe they did, 3 or 4 years ago?
And that's in regards to the allergen-friendly, vegan, vegetarian.
Yeah, plant forward
Yeah,
menuing and that sort of thing.
I think I think it's a requirement to continue that after their time with us. I mean, in the corporate setting, the upcoming workforce is the current students that we are feeding and soon to be feeding the Gen Alphas right behind them. So the demand is not going to decrease. I don't believe
Yeah.
it's going to increase. And I think it's an expectation. I think in dining halls and college and university dining programs, I mean, there's that requirement also that we need to provide this because most are requiring you to live on campus or have a meal plan. So we need to be able to accommodate the variety of needs of our students. But I think it's probably in the best interest for the corporate segment to think similarly. One of the strategies that we implemented in our recent reintroduced dining hall was it's a T9 station, so it's a top 9 free allergen station. And we visited campuses, we've done benchmarking, we've done research, etc. And a lot of times what we've experienced or found is that sometimes the allergen friendly concepts are kind of tucked away, or they're not as welcoming as the rest of the concepts. So what we designed was our allergen station is part of the dining hall. It's the menu items, unless you're truly seeking those items for allergen needs. We see participation from the majority of the guests because they're still greatly presented dishes. They're very high quality, they're very tasty. So we encourage everyone to participate in our top 9 free allergy station. So it's kind of I think it's a good strategy that we've noticed good participation by all, not just those that are seeking that. And then we obviously have some additional supplemental allergen friendly options that are self-service, et cetera. But so I think that's going back to your question, is the corporate segment, should they, could they? I think they could. I think they should. I think the demands will continue after time spent on a college campus. So I think our students are expecting that, especially those that are it's not their choice, it's dietary needs. So I think it's in our best interest to think about post collegiate life.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I was at LinkedIn, we did a test in one of our cafes in San Francisco, and we subtly changed the menu to be 80% plant-based, and it was interesting because the customer didn't even notice. They still had meat available, but there was all these other plant forward kinds of things. And then, interestingly enough, when we moved it back to the South Bay location, we didn't do it stealth. We told them what we were doing, and all of a sudden we had this big uproar. Oh, you're taking the meat away, and all that kind of stuff. So, I think it's good to hear that the students are gonna in a sense demand that kind of food. So, do you feed the athletes as well? I mean, is there, or do you do any kind of special diet for the athletes?
So we feed athletes depending on time of year. We're a D2 school, so our athletic program is different than say a D1 program. So we definitely provide services to them during their early arrival back to campus and late summer, early fall to prepare for the season. So we do provide services during that time frame, and then we also our football team, we feed them pre-game meals. But besides that, we don't have an athletic table, et cetera. They kind of are on their own, and athletic supports them in other ways. But so we support in a limited capacity.
Okay, cool. And then what about catering? I'm guessing you have a pretty strong catering program as well.
Yeah, we do. We have full service catering on campus. That is part of our program. Majority of our activity is on campus. We're exclusive but not, so we kind of organically are the caterer of choice on campus. And we also, being in a smaller community in a rural area, we do also bring in some participation from off campus that come to campus to host events. Our ballroom and our student union is the largest ballroom space in the county. So there's activity that comes to campus that we support as well.
Sure.
So from a president's house dinner to a ballroom event this past weekend, the team hosted a gallery fundraiser for the local art gallery, 180 plated dinner. So, you know, it's very diverse, and we kind of fit the needs as they come up, but it's really supplementing our program. It's not, uh, it's not the core focus of ours, but it is something that we do pay attention to and do focus on when needed.
And do you find that the local community maybe is driving some of the plant forward menus or the allergens and that sort of thing? Or is it not a big deal to them as much as it is to the students?
I think I don't think it's driven as much from the community as from internal campus entities. You know,
Yeah,
more of a student driven um kind of effort. I mean, we also, I mean, off campus, the plated dinner that I referenced had a plant-based option available, obviously, as well as a seafood and a short rib option. So there is a variety to choose from as far as their selection to meet the needs, regardless if it's, I mean, I think it's a collaboration there with the host of the event to make sure that we're satisfying the guest needs.
sure, sure. Um, okay, so um, how would, I guess, how do you how do you get information from the students to be able to, design food programs for them? Uh, do you like survey them, I don't know, once a year, twice a year, 20 times a year, or do you have a survey app that they can respond to? Or how do you get information from them to know what to serve them?
Sure. So there's a lot of ways that we solicit feedback from our students. Obviously, students are kind of the core of our purpose to provide them with what they're expecting and kind of stay ahead of it. You know, we just, as the academic year has restarted now, we did our pre-opening, I call it the road show. We presented to the RA and the leadership team, so the resident advisors, and just kind of the sharing of information is really important, I believe, before you can start to solicit feedback. So we do a lot of sharing, a lot of educating, just to make sure that everyone is aware what dining is. We're not just about providing a service. We're here to supplement the experience through activities and job opportunities and co-curricular activities that we host on campus. So we do a lot of educating. So we did the resident advisors. We met with student government. We met with student senate. We met with the Equity Student Council. We'll be meeting with the Resident Hall Advisor Group. So those groups are all groups that then we go back to and solicit feedback from, or pitch ideas to make sure that we're on track, because we think we have a lot of great ideas, but we got to make sure that it's connected with our audience. So
Yeah.
those are some of the just like human touch points that we use. Other more formal mechanisms to solicit feedback, we partner with NACFS, the National Association of College and University Food Services. You're aware of, Mark, and we do it's now available twice a year, but we continue to do it in the fall. It's a customer satisfaction survey that we roll out to campus. So that's inclusive of all students, all faculty, all staff. So whoever wants to participate, we do that in the fall. And then as part of our Res Life housing partnership, they do a late winter, early spring survey of the residence hall students. And again, there's dining questions baked into their assessment so that we can capture feedback. So between the two, we try to find trends and themes that we can address. And we just did that for this current fall, and we'll continue to do that. And then a few other ways we solicit feedback. We have the QR codes that you can submit an online. That's honestly one of the least used applications. We also have a student advisory board meeting that we partner with student government on. So between housing and dining, we have an advisory board that's facilitated by student government. That's use to solicit feedback. And then something else that dining has kind of introduced over the last couple of years is we've created our own internal focus group. We employ hundreds of students, but we also have student coordinators and then student managers that supplement the work of our leadership team. So we have a monthly dinner with all of our student managers and we solicit feedback. We use it as a focus group because the purpose of their role is to stay connected to the day-to-day operations, to the student voice. More likely, they're going to hear things before I hear things. So so we have many ways of soliciting feedback. And I think it's extremely important to do so. So you stay relevant, you stay ahead of things, because if you wait and don't ask for feedback, you're going to get it one way or the other in a student paper, in
Yep.
social media. So I'd rather be proactive than reactive. But at times you get blindsided as well. So we have tons of ways.
Well, yeah, and I guess the way you're explaining it, it doesn't surprise me that the QR codes are probably the least used because you're out there face to face talking to them all the time, and and to me, doing the forward thinking or the forward discussing of, like you say, educating them about what they should expect, but then also, did you meet the expectations? And so you're touching base with them just to check and make sure that that you're meeting their expectations. So when you're doing all this, how do you grasp that knowledge that they're giving you and infuse it into your team? I mean, do you have, I don't know, you probably have weekly meetings, and do you discuss specifically what the students are telling you and that sort of thing? Or how do you take all that data and then make your changes should you need to?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great question. So we take it all into consideration, right? But I think one of the main takeaways for me and my team this past year was really paying attention to the themes of the fall, autumn NACF survey, and then the Sky Factor Res Life survey results from late winter, and kind of identifying, okay, what's coming up? Is it healthy options? Is it hours of operation? Is it the value? I mean, value has come up for 25 years. I've been in this industry for 25 years, and value always comes up. So I'm not super shocked when I hear value, but then you pay attention to it. So we did a lot of that over the summer, and we responded to it. And then you can respond to it, and then you can just hope they notice, or then that's part of what we do as far as the follow-up. We help show how we've responded to it by sharing that information back so that they are well aware that we listened and then this is how we responded and that we're going to continue to listen. So I think that's helpful because these are lessons learned when you make change, and if you don't share the story, then some may notice it, but many won't. And then the sense of your guests is that they haven't done anything. So we try to do more and more closing that gap. So doing a full circle to ensure that we're proactively communicating the changes and connecting it to the feedback that we received, not just because we thought it was a good idea, but because it was part of what we captured in prior assessments, and that's why we're doing it. So I believe that's helpful. I think it shows that we're human, and it also shows that we're receptive, and that we're actually not just talking up in front of them and sharing all the great things that we do, but this is how we're going to do better. Because that's the message within my team and our leadership team is we're always looking at what's next and how do we continue to stay ahead of things. We're always thinking about next fall and beyond. So it's a continuous circle. We're never going to be done, which makes it exciting, I think. So
Well, and there's huge power in letting the students know that you did something because they brought some. I mean, it starts to build trust in the food program because they know that you care, number one, but also that if I, take the energy to explain to you what I want, that, you can change things. And so to me, it starts to really build that trust and that camaraderie, if you will, of what's going on. So yeah, so you mentioned a couple things, but what are they telling you? Again, getting back to kind of what the audience is going to want to hear here is what's bugging them and what are they, demanding, if you will, or requesting.
Yeah, some I've kind of already touched on. The healthy options was something that we heard more this past year than we have in prior years, and we felt like, okay, we've done, and that's kind of going back to my earlier comment that we felt we have addressed it,
Yeah.
and we didn't really connect the dots. We did a poor job communicating it back. So that's kind of the reason that we're being more proactive in messaging back, because we want to make sure that it's very visible. The plant-based options are available. We just had to do a better job of marketing it, and then also to share the story back to the students. So that's one that keeps coming up. Allergen-friendly options, nutritional information. Those are things that students are seeking more and more year over year. So staying in front of that, making sure that you have a diverse enough menu that covers the needs and wants of all of our students. So yeah, those are some of the things that I've heard. The other one that, I think you've mentioned 24/7 earlier, and they would love us to be open 24/7, I'm sure. We wouldn't get a lot of participation between 2 and 6. We were 24/7 at one of our locations when I first came on board here, and it wasn't even though the students communicated that they needed that, they wanted that, it wasn't very well used. So the pandemic kind of changed course on that location, and we haven't been since. So, but other than hours of operation, yeah, more availability, more when they want it. That was an interesting item that we learned from one of the assessments is the impression that students go home every weekend. Well, we have data that shows that they're here more than we thought they were. They're just, maybe their habits are different. Their habits are different over the weekend. Maybe they don't want 8 o'clock breakfast. They're looking for more of a late night opportunity. Maybe we need to look at ways that we can get food to them differently than them coming to us. So those are some of the things that we've taken away recently from some of the recent assessments. So nothing mind blowing, but it's yeah, it's variety, it's the healthy options, it's value. Value is another one. I mean, that's a hard topic, right? Because we one of our values within dining is culinary excellence and focusing on high quality product. So sourcing locally when possible. That comes at a different expense than if we were to refocus our attention to lesser quality items. So that's a challenge because we don't want to jeopardize our value, but we also we want to stay in front of the demands and the needs of our students that do have financial restrictions and need to, you know, stay fed throughout the year, but not break the bank. So that's probably an area that's the hardest to manage, to be honest with you, but it's something that we're trying to learn more and see how we can introduce more, maybe bundled combo meals, et cetera. The all you care to enjoy dining hall, part of the reason there I mentioned was to build community, but it was also to break down barriers for food insecurity. It was a one price for entry for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it was full access so that you're not being charged for a weighted salad or for you want to try this menu item, but then you don't have the funds to do so. So that was a way that we got in front of the value. We thought, but I think there's still a lot more to do for that the value category.
Well, yeah, and when you're talking about it, what I'm thinking about when, like, in corporate food service, value, if it's not a free program, value has, a associated dollar to it, or it's too expensive or whatever.
Mhm.
But in your case, I mean, at least in the resident dining hall, the value shifts because, in a sense, mom and dad it's free, to the students. They don't have as much invested. I suppose they have to manage, a budget or something like that. But it really twists into more about the quality of the food, that I'm getting based on how much mom and dad are paying, in a lump sum kind of a thing, right? I mean, and so to me, the value proposition really, to me, moves from cost in the customer's head to, what am I, is it a, is it an 8 ounce chicken or is it a 6 ounce chicken, kind of a thing? I mean, is that true, or do they still have these, you know, cost value pricing kind of things in their head?
I think it's a mix. I think the cost is still a factor for our students. Um, I think that we get our benchmarks are not the same as what they benchmark us against. So when we talk about some of our concepts, we're not benchmarking with a local fast food chain. We're benchmarking with other segments of the industry. So I think when they see a value meal at a off-campus location or a fast casual service pizza restaurant, it's not always like for like. So I think that's a little bit of a challenge. Another factor for us, and I think a lot of our students are, have financial restrictions as well. There's a lot of financial aid that goes into the picture. I think they pay attention to it maybe more than others because it's not always mom and dad covering the bill. It's something they have to navigate on their own. So I think it's a mix. So as long as we can continue to find value and find ways to shrink our expenses so that we can offset that on menu prices. I think that's something we can continually do to do better and to kind of meet them where they're at. Um, but as you know, I mean, the cost of goods has increased. Um,
Yeah.
what it was the last, I haven't seen the most recent, but 20%, I think CPI has increased from 2018 to present. So that's a huge burden on us. It requires operators to do things a lot differently.
Yeah.
And I know you touched on the corporate side where, a program, that's where you have a lot more experience than I do or knowledge is the incentive is if it's given to you, right? If it's a free program. So that makes it even more challenging for the corporate segment because it's not, if you're providing that as a added value of being an employee with that corporation, the expense has to go somewhere. So, uh,
Well, yeah, and the cost discussion happens at a higher level than the customer, because senior leaders, they understand that they're investing in the food program because it's attracting the best and the brightest to come and make the best, software or whatever it is you're making, right? So yeah, it's a whole different world when it's free. And I've worked in both, and I really feel like, in the corporate world, you should have a subsidy, if not 100%, because people, even though they're paying less for the food, they still are invested. They have skin in the game, and they treat it different. In a free program, if you take something, you take 20 of something and you don't like it, you just throw it away. And so when you're invested in it, all of a sudden, you make decisions differently as a student. So yeah, it's a, the value, it's interesting, the value proposition. And I just wonder how, because there's this, this shift, if you will. I mean, they're still concerned about price, but they're also concerned about what they get for that price, and that carries over into the corporate world. So they're looking for, and they're smart. They know what's going on, and of course, the little handheld thing that's in their hand tells them everything that they freaking want. So,
mhm.
so they can call your bluff if you're trying to, pull the wool over their eyes or something like that. So it's interesting. But one thing that I didn't hear you say, you've touched on it a little bit, but is sustainability a big deal to the students? I mean, I think, in past years it was, and, you talked about local farms and that sort of thing, but, and of course, I think even it's in the state now, you can't have styrofoam, and you have, reusables and all these kinds of other things. Food waste is huge, but I mean, are they interested in that, or is that just an expectation?
Um, so I think it depends on where you're at, right? I think I spent 18 years at the University of Washington, where I think that it was more of an expectation driven by our students. The last 7 I've spent here at Central Washington University, and I think it's more an expectation we as dining leadership want to drive versus
Right.
demand from students. Not to say there aren't certain students, those that are focused on a sustainability degree or pathway. So there's some, but not as much as I experienced from my prior role in my prior institution. So it's a balance. So we, as a dining leadership, we know what's right to do, and we try to navigate the challenges that exist. Even though we're 2 hours east of the Seattle metro area, it's our local county doesn't have a composting facility. So then what? So how do we? What do we do? So we're with the support of campus leadership and sustainability office trying to create resources on campus to support the needs. So that's driven by senior leadership on campus, say sustainability leadership on campus, dining leadership on campus, and students that have a passion around it definitely support that. But yeah, and this past year, the students passed a student green fund fee that was added to all students here at CWU to kind of drive sustainability efforts. So I think it's a mix. But I do believe at times leadership is trying to get in front of it before students even ask for it. But again, there's select students that are looking for sustainability efforts to be a focus of ours, and not just of dining, but dining tends to be at the top of the list because we
It's
generate a lot of,
visible.
yeah, I mean, we have the most opportunity, the packaging, the food
Right.
that we produce, minimizing waste. Some of the ways that we offset that, I think one of the things that I think is really a passion to our students here at CWU is the food recovery program and the food pantry that's on campus. So we are a partner with the food pantry. We lead the efforts on a food recovery program that then is provided to the food pantry to stock fridges across campus for those that might find themselves in a food insecure moment that needs some nutrients. So I think that is something that I feel students are more passionate about than some of the others, but the others still come up in conversations. So I don't know if that answered it specifically, but kind of a mix here, for sure.
Well, yeah, and again, I think, to me, it's like, when when you reserve a hotel room, you expect there's going to be a bed in it. And so, when you go to college, you expect that they're going to have a sustainability program, and they're going to, so to me, it's not as, I remember the old days, again, when you were at Washington, and, I was at Microsoft, they were pretty freaking active about it. But now it seems like it's calmed down because people have changed, and in the work environment for sure.
Yeah.
The food pantries, that's something interesting. You say you have them, but are they participated in? Or, I mean, it again, it's kind of a nice to have, but do they, and the students that obviously get wrapped around it is it's important, but sometimes they get wrapped around it and then it's not necessarily used, like, like you say, the plant forward stuff too. But anyway, is it participated in? I think from a usage standpoint?
It is. I don't have the data point to share, so I don't want to misquote, but it is. There is heavy participation at the food pantry. There's one local, I mean, not one, there's one centralized location within our library that is kind of the core. And then there's satellite locations spread across campus with just like more of a refrigerator and maybe some snacks available. So it's heavily used. Food insecurity is a topic of discussion on our campus to ensure that students have the resources that are needed to be successful at school. And so, yeah, it is heavily used. There's a lot of good support from the president's office as well. So food pantry reports directly to the president's office to make sure that it has the resources and the support necessary to be successful. But yeah, overall, it's used very well, and a part of dining is how do we support that? So one of the biggest things that I believe in is building relationships and supporting campus initiatives, et cetera. This is just a small piece that we have with the food recovery program. We support the pantry through some of the procurement contracts that we have to supplement their purchases, et cetera. They're using our approved vendors to stock their shelves along with other routes. But yeah, it's definitely a well-used resource on campus.
That's great. That's fantastic. So, I guess another subject that I haven't heard too much of
Mhm.
through this conversation is technology. So how is technology playing with the students? Do they expect, robot deliveries and phone apps and, all of the things that are out there right now? Are they demanding that, or are they kind of don't know what's going on with it? Or, I mean, how are they dealing with technology?
So yeah, technology, that's a great topic. That's something that when I first came to campus, there was no mobile order application. It was on the short list of projects, but I came on board fall of 2018. So a year into it, we were starting to explore, and then the pandemic kind of fast tracked our efforts. So we launched a mobile ordering application prior to fall of 2020 in preparation for the return of students during the pandemic. Since then, we've kind of transitioned to a different platform that we believe is more intuitive and more guest friendly, and the students love it. So on our campus, on a daily average, we're experiencing 70+% participation in mobile orders throughout our program. So that's heavy use. We have one of the branded national branded concept that we have is a kiosk only, mobile order only concept, and we have one other location that is the same mobile order or kiosk order only. So it's received well. We haven't, on occasion, that the most challenges that might have been experienced or have been experiences if community members come to campus and are not um, as likely to have experienced that in other segments, but even off-campus entities are kind of advancing. So mobile ordering, I think, is top of mind, it's how they know when we're open, it's how they know
Yep.
what's available for lunch, it's if they can order before classes end and pick up and avoid the lines. So mobile ordering, I think, is the top. Other technology, the going back to allergen information and nutrition information, we have a online platform that provides nutritional information for students. They can build out their day. They can see the nutritional content, the allergen information prior to stepping foot into an operation. So that's something we've done a lot of work and introduced over the time that I've been here. We've introduced a new, some of the less sexy items, or the POS system, point of sale system. We transitioned to a new recent addition, so that we weren't working with the antiquated system that we had in place prior. So yeah, technology is huge. Robot, I mean, funny you say that. I still have interest. I don't know how well it's going to be received or would be received. We've solicited student feedback for the last couple of years. So we're still exploring if that's a good fit for us or not. But if you're going to introduce delivery, I think it's definitely the most efficient way to do so. But we also, being on a college campus, don't want to encourage isolation, which is one of the things that we need to navigate. We want students to come out. We want them to build community. So if we're bringing things to them, is that contradicting our message? So something we need to navigate. Another technology that digital display systems. I know there's a lot of great options out there. Ours is in need of some future revisions for sure. And then menu management. Menu management, I think, is an area that I know some of the new tech and new software systems that are coming out are getting closer to what I think are current and future generations are going to expect when they get to the workforce. The use of AI is not something to be scared of. It's how do you embrace it, and how do you help support the menu creation, recipe creation, the menu management side of what we have to do. So I think that's an area that we haven't been able to make as much progress in as we want. So that's on the future project list, is menu management for sure. So tech is huge. Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're walking on their phones, they're listening to
Yeah.
their um, ear devices. They're constantly. This is how you get information, is at your fingertips. So either we provide it, or we become irrelevant to what they're looking for.
What about your staff? Are they I guess technology accepting, if you will? I mean, again, when we did some stuff at Microsoft, we were doing predictive analytics. We were trying to predict how much food we were going to need for tomorrow. And, at first the chefs fought it and said, I can do better than that. And then all of a sudden we did, man against machine kind of a thing, and found out that the machine was right more than the human was right. Right. And so then the chefs kind of calmed down and just, accepted that technology. But again, at Microsoft, we were in the, mecca of technology. But I'm just wondering, are you doing, with menu management, and training is getting really big now with wearables like glasses, and other things where you can start to train somebody by them looking at a video and some glasses while they're actually doing it, and that kind of stuff. Are they open to that kind of stuff? Are they encouraging you to step into it, or are they like, oh, this is too kludgy, I don't want to deal with it?
Well, we're not that advanced for sure, Mark. So we don't have what are they, the meta glasses or
Yeah, yeah.
I never thought about that for the culinary side of the operation. That's interesting, but I think that's the future, right? I think thinking like what's gonna be up and coming in the future. It's more of that. I mean, those that are going to be in my role or your role in the future, or it's the generation that's currently in college, or it's the Gen Alphas that are right behind them. So they're gonna they're gonna want things to be a lot more advanced than I think we've experienced in the industry. And depending on which segment, I don't have the amount of experience you do in the corporate segment. I do for the C&U side, and it's the antiquated systems that might have historically met the need is not something that's going to be acceptable for future generations, I don't think. Uh, so as far as how receptive our staff, it depends. I think you have to really do a good job of explaining the why. Because if they don't understand the why, then it's that it doesn't make sense, and they don't see the value in doing it. And then the training, you mentioned training is not just it's not a 1 day workshop and then good luck.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
ongoing active leadership. It's ongoing active participation to ensure that it continues, because if not, it won't continue. So that's an area that we can continue to build upon for sure. But we're doing more of that. We're doing more of the active participation, the active leadership, the presence in the units, the training, the explaining of the why, all things that we're trying to add to the conversation to help all levels of staff understand the importance. Uh, from, like you said, the production sheets, right? I can do better. Well, can you? It depends. Like when we're overproducing and creating waste, then I think maybe if we utilize the analytics that are available, we can do better, right? At the end, we want to create less waste, even though we internally are able to recover some of the waste, not all of the waste for our food recovery program. We still have to manage the dollars that we have available to run our units. So waste is not something we want to encourage more of. We want to encourage less. So I think that's where
Right.
systems kind of play in and help.
Yeah, it's kind of scary what's coming with AI. I I have embraced it and I'm like deep into it. It's just intriguing to me. And
Mhm.
it's getting to the point now where you can take a picture of your cooler and it will tell you what's in there and what you should put on the menu because you're going to lose this by today or tomorrow, and so you should put it on the menu. And and then same thing with food waste. They're doing a lot with pre-consumer waste and trim and that sort of thing, but also post-consumer. So now they're running it under a camera, and it's analyzing the waste at the dish drop, right? And then they put all that together with menu management. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy what's going on with this stuff, and it's just I don't know. It's coming, and it's coming fast, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for sure. That's definitely the thing, but so. What again, getting back to our audience a little bit, but what would be some advice that you would give them to be ready for the students that you're preparing them for? I mean, what is some words of wisdom that I guess you would throw out to say, hey, watch out for this, or this is really important to them, so you better be ready, kind of a thing. So what kind of comes to your mind?
That's a great question. To see the future, right? Um, I think for the corporate segment specifically, I think, yeah, paying attention to CNU dining and kind of what's happening. We've done that on the corporate side. What's corporate dining doing, right? So I think paying attention to all the segments is very important.
Yep.
Commercial, non-commercial. So I think pay attention and start preparing for the up and coming generations for sure. Like I said, we have Gen Z currently amongst us, but I have a daughter who's Gen Alpha. She has never experienced a time without a mobile device or doesn't know
Right.
what a VCR is, and like it's just things that let alone a rotary phone. I think that's dating myself even more. So I think preparing for future generations is key, not just as I mean, for the corporate segment, I think you're thinking about those that you're going to have join you as a staff member, as an employee to support your mission. But then if you're trying to feed them and give them not only the service but the hospitality that they expect when they dine with you, it becomes even more challenging. So I think paying attention to um, the generational expectations, like technology, that's not an optional thing. I don't think it matters what segment you're in. I think if you don't have it, you're missing out. Because if you're not going to provide it to me, then I guess if you're giving me a free meal, maybe it changes it a little bit. But if not, I'm going to see what's available with a local delivery service, and I'll bring it to my desk or to the front lobby. I think that's probably a big one. I think information at your fingertip, like we talked about the device in your hand, that's expected. So even though on a college university dining program, the allergen friendly, the dietary restrictions, accommodations, some of those are requirements of what we do, right? If you're required to have a meal plan, we're required to make sure that we can accommodate your dietary restrictions. But even if you're not required to, I think it's something to pay attention to because I think it creates an environment of inclusivity. If you can
Yep.
provide uh, services and experiences for all of your team members versus those that don't have any dietary restrictions. So, and try not to make it, that was one of the recent takeaways for us is don't make it separate, make it part of the experience so that it doesn't feel like you're isolating those that have restrictions, make it feel like it's part of the
Yep.
community that you're trying to build. So I guess those, for what it's worth, is some things that I think of for those that move on after their time with us on a college campus. So yeah.
Well, the thing that stuck with me too is that you're preparing them in a sense for this value proposition, right? I mean, the idea of value,
Mhm.
and I'm intrigued by it because it's not necessarily the cost value, it's the quality value, and making sure that if they're paying a high price, which they probably will,
Mhm.
then they're getting a high priced, meal, if you will. Or if they're getting a value meal, it's understood that it's not going to be, the Chateaubriand kind of
Mhm.
stuff, right? So,
Yeah, I
well,
think
this is great. Go
another
ahead.
thought that came to mind was just some of the monotony breakers that I think a lot of college and university dining programs introduce to
Yep.
their just schedule as inviting local or not even local, just your industry partners to come to campus to supplement what you do to change things up. We on our campus, I know a lot of campuses do this, but partnering with student organizations to host cultural events and highlight specific cultural activity that happens throughout the year. So I think that could translate over to the corporate side. We do a lot of student appreciation. We do a welcome barbecue and a big food festival at the beginning of the year, and we close it out at the end with an appreciation, student appreciation. So who doesn't love free food? And that's when we kind of really give back to the community and to our students. We do late night breakfasts. I mean, so there's things that could translate over to the corporate side to show that you value your guests. I think is a huge piece of it. It's it goes well beyond the services, right? It's about how you make them feel and the hospitality that you create. So that's something I think could translate over to the corporate side for sure.
Yeah, I think the hospitality is huge, and again, I think getting back to AI, to me, what AI is going to do is allow, the AI bot to take care of a lot of the duties that maybe a chef or a dishwasher, whoever, takes care of. But then that chef can then go out and be hospitable or be talking to the customer and get that one-on-one, and like we were talking at the very beginning about trust, right? And so they start to trust, and they want to engage with the chef and understand, his or her background, and where the food comes from, and their passion around the food, and all that kind of stuff comes out if they're out in front of the customer instead of back, with a clipboard checking boxes, right? So I think it's going to play a huge role in it too. So, well, so the way I usually close these things out is I give you a kind of a rapid fire, either or question, and so I'm going to throw a couple at you and just kind of see where you fall in all of this. So
Okay.
I'll start out with some of the easy ones. So
Okay.
coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yeah, keeps you going, right?
That keeps me going.
Early riser or night owl?
Oh, night owl, unless I have to be an early riser because of work, but I'm a night owl.
So you get a lot done after dinner?
I mean, I don't know if I get a lot done, but I tend to do stay up later than I should.
You better answer this one right. Books or podcasts?
Oh, geez, I feel the pressure to say podcast, but so podcast,
Okay, good
especially
answer.
this one, right?
Yeah, good answer. Local sourcing or national contracts?
Local sourcing,
Student feedback or operational data?
student feedback.
Good. I could figure that one out before I even asked it, right? Um, let's see. Freshman meal plans or upperclassmen flexibility?
Well, I would say, um, since it's a focus of ours, is upperclassmen flexibility, attracting more participation from that segment that is not necessarily more, it's less likely they'll be participating. So our focus, it's on all of them, but so that's not a rapid response, but upperclassmen.
Well, it's interesting. So do the freshmen have to be on a meal plan?
Mhm.
And then just 1 year, and then they can go off and do it. So I'm guessing, yeah, you're right. It's getting them to continue to participate
Mhm.
because again, they see the value, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Digital ordering or face-to-face service?
I appreciate good old fashioned face to face service at the levels that we might not experience as much as we used to, but yeah, more face to face for me.
Right, but just like what you're saying, you can't get away from the digital ordering because that's what they're trained on. That's what they
Yeah, yeah. But for me
use.
personally, I'm gonna do it face to face.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I'm old school, right? And
Yeah, me too.
well, I really, really appreciate the time that you've taken to give us the insight. I think it's going to be fantastic for, the upcoming explosion that you'll be a part of, and and this has just been, very entertaining for me. Anyway, I really enjoy hearing the stories and exactly what you're doing. So I appreciate immensely the time that you've taken to give us some insight about, about what is coming to the corporate world through these students. So thanks a lot.
Uh, Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity and honored to be chatting with you and just having a good conversation. So I appreciate your time as well.